motivational talks, giveaways, food galore, kiddies activities. Entry only 10 Rand. IMA Baitul Noor. Our caring changes lives. For more information, call 031-209-7838. Powered by Radio Al Ansar.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Petermarisburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Radio Al Ansar, keeping you informed.
خدا نے مجھ کو دیا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے ملا ہے جو بھی ملا، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، جہاں جہاں بھی گیا دل بچھانے لگے، جہاں جہاں بھی گیا لوگ دل بچھانے لگے، یہ ہے تیرا میرا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں کی دعا جنت کی ہوا، ماں کی دعا جنت کی ہوا، ماں کی دعا جنت کی ہوا، کی دعا جنت کی ہوا، یہ کامیابیاں شہرت قدم قدم پہ ملی، یہ کامیابیاں شہرت قدم قدم پہ ملی، نصیب ایسا ملا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، طواف میں نے کیا تھی صحیح بربادی، طواف میں نے کیا تھی صحیح بربادی، جو میں نے میرا کیا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، مجھے گرانے پہ حاسد تلے ہوئے تھے، مگر मुझे गिराने पे हासिद तूने हुए थे मगर मैं दुश्मनों से बचा माँ तेरी दुआओं से तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से कसम है इसमें उजाले का कुछ जमाल नहीं कसम है इसमें उजाले का कुछ जमाल नहीं उरूज से को मिला माँ तेरी दुआओं से तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से माँ की दुआ जन्नत की दुआ जन्नत की माँ की दुआ जन्नत की दुआ जन्नत की
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to another edition of News in Focus live on Radio Al-Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Petermaritzburg 105.6 FM, and audio streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba bikum. My name is Yunus Sacoor, and I will be in your company for the next 2 hours. I will be interviewing our guests shortly. Today, the date is the 12th of Safar 1447 AH, equivalent to the 6th of August 2025. It's a cold and rainy evening in KwaZulu-Natal, Durban this evening. Temperature is around the 16 degrees mark, which is relatively cold for Durban. We're into a winter spell as we speak, but I believe it's much colder inland, etc. I've read something coming through that load shedding is around the corner as well, Sam. Yeah. So we have to just be watchful. We thought it's behind us, but unfortunately, every now and again it pops up. On tonight's show, we're dealing with some very important issues. The first one being the President Ramaphosa slams municipalities over service delivery. We'll do an analysis. He said we cannot proceed as if it's business as usual, and he said this for the last couple of years. He basically indicated that the ANC-led municipalities cannot operate as they wish while citizens continue to endure poor service delivery. If you ask the ratepayer associations, they'll tell you this has been the order of the day for the last 2 decades. Nothing new. Suddenly he's waking up because the elections are around the corner. But we'll get some input from the chairperson of ORA, who's present in the studio with me this evening. We'll also chat on ANC commitment to the GNU. The NEC of the ANC had a meeting this weekend, and they've indicated there's a lot of positives coming out of the GNU, and most of them are commented to the GNU, but others are apprehensive. Then we're going to chat about MK's fight against dual police. Now, MK is arguing that since the KZN Commissioner of Police in Kwanazi made some allegations that Ramaphosa did not have the right to have another police minister appointed while he's put Senzo Mchuni on special leave. So they're arguing that in court. I'm sure Ramaphosa would have done his homework when he took the decision, but we're going to chat briefly on that issue. The guests on the show this evening are Samuel Kennedy. He's a political analyst, and he's been on my show quite a number of times, and he's going to assist us in analyzing a lot of these issues. Ernest Smith, he's a councillor from Ward 27. He will be joining us shortly. and our economist Hassan Motala, who will give us an update on the economic situation in the country as a result of tariff adjustments by Trump. Our president seems to believe that he can utilize those exports into other areas rather than relying on the USA. So time will tell us how that will impact on the economy. We'll also be chatting briefly with Abdul Valodia. He's from the Overport Ratepayers Associations. He has a lot of challenges in the Overport area. And I will be inviting ratepayer associations regularly in this show of mine leading up to the municipal elections. So we'll kick off with item 1 in our topic for this evening, and that is the commitment that the president made in respect of municipalities. Now, Ramaphosa mentioned that the ANC-run municipalities must take urgent action to fix up the poor service delivery. He also made remarks following the party's 4-day NEC committee meeting at Germiston Civic Center on Monday, where he mentioned that as a country, they are gearing up for the upcoming 2026 local government elections. So he mentioned that the ANC branch remains the most important link with our people. This means that each and every one of us must ensure that we build strong activist branches that can represent the needs and aspirations of local communities. Now, we know there are a lot of civic structures. The ANC has what we call branch executive committees, and these committees work with the people in the different wards. But with these branch executive committees, you have civic structures and you've got ratepayer associations. So all the civic structures play a significant role in the different wards. So Ramaphosa believes, as has been the case in the past, that these particular activist branches, they need to interact with communities as though they're only doing it now. They ought to have done it, many, many, many years ago. So he said the key part of the ANC's renewal is building activist branches that are active in communities, engaging with local government, and helping to resolve service delivery challenges. Now, the irony of that statement is that you've got heads of departments, you've got senior personnel in these municipalities that are failing to deliver. So how are the branches are going to enable or encourage people to deliver when the officials that are in these municipalities are incompetent, they involve in maladministration, many of them are cadre deployments, and they're only working on the instructions of politicians who are in control of the municipalities. So against that background, the ratepayer associations have to challenge the so-called renewal statement that Ramaphosa is talking about. He further added that the ANC's election strategy workshop had called for the establishment of a service delivery war room in every province and municipality. That particular war room has been prevalent for more than 2 decades. Are these war rooms effective? And I know Abdul Valodia, who's present with us, has been attending these war rooms run by councillors. And when complaints and concerns are raised at these war rooms, all these councillors say is that we reported it to the officials, they don't have budgets, etc. Now, later on, when Ernest joins us, he will be able to add to that. So what he is saying eventually, this is so we are able to build a responsible, people-centered and sustainable culture of dealing with the issues in all local municipalities in line with our enduring commitment to build a better life for all. Now, the concept of a better life for all was part of the ANC's manifesto 2 decades ago. They also came up with a back-to-basic policy where they said people must not start dealing with issues at the grassroots level. Are these all talk shops? Are these all promises because elections are around the corner and they're hoping that the people will vote for the ruling party? Are they concerned that there are other parties that are very active out there and are encouraging people to vote for them, like the MK, like the EFF, the IFP? So there's some serious challenges that the ruling party envisages. So this is why the state president has brought back this rhetoric where he's talking about people need to focus on improving service delivery. So I'd like to welcome Samuel Kennedy. Samuel has been involved in civic activism, has been a councillor in these municipalities. In many of my shows, he's been chatting about the failure of the municipalities in delivering services, and we dissected the reasons for this lack of service delivery. So again, we're just challenging the statement made by the president, and because we are quite au fait with the situation, that we want to bring to the attention of our listeners this evening, that is this all a talk shop? Is this all promises that have been written and given to the president? Because both Abdul Valodia and Samuel are on the ground. They're dealing with communities. They're hearing the concerns of communities. So we're going to do a quick analysis of this particular statement that the state president has mentioned in the weekend. Samuel, good evening and welcome to News in Focus, and nice to have you here this cold evening.
Good evening, Yunus. Good evening to the listeners on a pretty cold Durban. A bit wet as well. And I think we'll warm the show up and give a perspective on the state of politics in South Africa, vis-a-vis, in this instance, the GNU, which is on the agenda, and the state of local government.
Now, let us just reflect on the statements that the President has mentioned, that, they cannot operate as though, it's business as usual, and citizens need to continue to sort of be active in the ground and request the municipalities to improve service delivery. Now, for since the last elections, and you've been regularly in my show, Sam, and I think you were there when the councillors were elected, and there was this so-called coalition with the ANC, the smaller parties joined in. And since then and now, service delivery has declined considerably. And we are a year away from local government elections, and do we really see service delivery improving? Sam?
Thanks, Yunus. Look, I think I'm sure listeners can see this with their own eyes, so you don't need to be a rocket scientist to come to a conclusion. Firstly, the situation is as follows. You have a small rates base, which primarily is being funded by business, and you have a huge consumer base of municipal services who, by and large, are not contributors of rates. So what do you have? You have governments, for example, City of Joburg, City of eThekwini. They keep borrowing. This national government borrowing. And so the situation is your debt to GDP ratio is over 70-80%. In other words, you're borrowing more than you accrue as revenue. And what happens when you borrow? You got to pay back, and you're not borrowing Sharia. You're borrowing from Western banks, Western-dominated banks, or Western principal banks. Mm-hmm. You're paying interest. So consumers or ratepayers or residents or citizens of the city are not getting the service that they should be getting. It's been going on for 30 years.
Is it because they don't have funding, or is it because there's maladministration, fraud, corruption, lack of experience in performing the function?
Well, let's put it to you this way. I mean, we must call a spade a spade. In 2021, this ANC government, local government, was supposed to have been removed. They never had the numbers. They had 95 out of 222, meaning straightforward, you don't have 50% plus one. What did they do? They used every trick in the book to win the small parties over. And so just a few days ago, I was saying to Abdul, in Phoenix, Tonga, Chatsworth, Newlands East, Newlands West, Merebank, Marion Ridge, all the minority areas, including Overport, Asherville, wherever BBCs, wherever there's this interest groups. I was asked to write an article about the state of local government. And my answer is the ANC has failed dismally. In fact, dismally is an overstatement. You come from housing, you know the housing space probably more than anybody. They can't even produce decent numerical, and I use the word numerical. The number, let's put it to this way. How do you do stats? How do you do GDP? How do you work out?
Now, Sam, I want to come to the level of, I'm not saying our listeners don't understand how budgets work, but 75% of our residents are below the poverty line. Statistics have proven that they're battling to pay for services. Many of them are pensioners, grantees, others are low income, and there's a huge degree of unemployment. Now, the basic services that our people are talking about, and our ratepayer associations are raising the same issue, municipalities failing to deliver basic services. For example, there's regular water outages. Load shedding will be starting again. Fortunately, it hasn't been around for a long time. But if you look at maintenance of the infrastructure, it's poor. And when we dissected this over a series of programs, it is abundantly clear that if a Tekwini municipality has a budget of X billion for the year, I think it's 36 or Ernest is here, he can give us the exact figures. They have an operating budget.
Let's include PMB.
They have a capital budget. If we talk about the Tekwini, but PMB is even worse. Faduguza is worse.
Yeah.
All the others are even worse. The Tekwini being the leading municipality, and we're talking about when we were there many years ago, and what's the situation now? You don't have to be a rocket scientist to pick up some things are missed, something's gone wrong. And with the same amount of money, people were able to deliver 10, 15 years ago, or even before that. And now suddenly there's a decline. And the president is now saying, he's conceding that we have a problem. But he's saying this in every election. Now, the ratepayers are saying this is an electioneering campaign. Now we have, the opposition here in Ernest, but obviously in the GNU they're together, but they're raising issues. What our listeners want to know, Sam, and I want to bring in Abdul shortly, is that the employees that are appointed from the city manager downwards, it's abundantly clear that they're not delivering for one of many reasons. Either they're listening to the politicians and, embezzling funds, awarding contracts to pals, many corruption and fraudulent cases. There's no consequential management. Nobody's put behind bars as yet because there's a cover-up. So is half the funds being wasted in irregular expenditure, maladministration, fraud, corruption, that you can't use that money to deliver on the ground, starting from Zuma's era and before? So we cannot cover up the problems that are there, because if you've got the budget and you're not utilizing the budget towards service delivery, then that money is going elsewhere. So what I want to do is I want to bring in Ernest quickly to explain to us that in the last budget from 1st July to 30th June, what is the operating budget? What is the capital budget? And why isn't those budgets being used effectively? Ernest, welcome to News in Focus, live on Radio Al-Ansar International. It's a pleasure having you here. And I know you're a councillor for Ward 27 and you call a spade a spade. Samuel has just mentioned that, there's a debt to, there's a huge debt the government has to manage. But the council is working out its budget from the ratepayers' contribution.
Yes.
And that's how they balance their budget. So what is the operation budget and the operating budget and the capital budget which the municipality is expected to spend on service delivery?
Right. Assalamu alaikum to the listeners and to yourself. And How's it, Sam? How are you doing? You're right. I apologies for being late tonight. But as I walked in, I heard Sam giving it now. I must actually agree with him because Sam and I have a very similar train of thought. So because where it comes to accountability measures being implemented effectively. So the two parts of it, I mean, I don't know the figures off like hand, but I mean, in terms of your CapEx budget and your OpEx budget, obviously you can break it down 50-50, but it's not as...
Isn't the total about 67 billion? Or is it,
67.6, somewhere in that region was.
And the operating is about 80%.
Yeah,
so.
Give or take. Yeah, and the other one is OpEx. But essentially, where the problem is, all right, and you've touched on it, is that over the last 15-20 years, we have incorporated a lot of PALs into the system, and it's the ANC. I'm sorry to say, it's the ANC who caused the problem, and now they are reaping what they've sowed, quite frankly. But having said that, you know, not everybody in the municipality is bad, but that's where the issue of accountability comes in, because if you have managed to get a job for a friend on the side here because we're politically connected on the side and that side, it becomes very difficult when you need that person in the political spectrum for their votes. Because remember, a lot of these people, I mean, I'm sure you've seen that there's one of our councillors that's found himself into the media with the nutrition scheme and the like, where the allegations are that his wife has been involved and the like. And I mean, that's a simple thing where people hold positions politically, but they need the votes from the same members that they are intending to discipline. Now, that's where the issue fundamentally comes in. And that's part and parcel of why your budgets start getting delayed and why this person isn't getting a slice of the pie and why the tenders are bloated by 50%, if not 100%. And the reality of it is this was done many years ago, you know, in terms of bringing up jobs for PALs in. So the reality of it is, what did the ANC expect? That's a fundamental question. When we're talking about the implementation of projects, all right, what I've found over the last 6-7 years is that there's a large delay in how fast these projects are being rolled out, and it's simply because there is somebody or a few somebodies inside the system whose whole intention is profiteering. Like as what we call tender.
So you say
projects.
money is being squandered?
Of course, money is being
into
squandered.
Maladministration and corruption.
Of course,
and
yes.
it continues.
Yes, and
there's no action being taken.
100%. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to put blame where it was. Up until the last election, the ANC was the majority political
But
party.
they're still controlling with the coalition.
Well, I mean, they're finding it very difficult to balance. That's where it is at the moment, because you have your radicals on the right, which are effectively your EFF, and you have your nationalists and the like, who are on the other side. And then you have the likes of the IFP, which sway where the wind goes. 1 minute they're here, and the next minute they're there. And I'll use a very simple example. In our last council meeting, we had a write-off of ₹500 million worth of assets from our electricity department. And that's everything from a laptop screen to scanners and printers. And
all gone missing.
No, hold on. Some of them, in the report that came to us, there are a number of items which are allegedly being stolen. So the report that came, and this is where I myself and the DA have a problem, is essentially, if you're going to present a asset register that you want to write off in the depreciation value of 290 million, okay, no problem. But tell us how many cases have been opened against these people that have stolen.
And where's the control of those
That's
assets?
the point. And I mean, you're saying you're writing off, 300-400 cables, but they've reached the end of lifespan. That's understandable. But it's something as simple as quantifying all of these things. How many cables, how many scanners, how many printers, and what's the accountability measures you've put in place as the municipality to say, well, we've opened 300 cases. I mean, they use the case of the guys who were caught up near the Mozambican border with the 56 or 76 street lights, which are quite expensive in nature, So the question is, how are we balancing our books, but we are not holding our own people accountable? Bearing in mind that not everybody's involved in this.
So what you're saying, Ernest, is that there's a host of problems not related to using the budget effectively, but there's maladministration.
100%.
Now, I want to bring in Abdul. Abdul, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus. Abdul is the chair of ORA. They have a huge area. Is it Ward 32, Abdul?
Ward 31.
Ward 31.
Walaikum salam.
And Abdul, you mentioned that there's a lot of challenges in terms of your deliverables. And in your group or your chat group, people are complaining about water outages, not necessarily load shedding, electricity outages. They're complaining about blocked sewer drains. They blocked normal drains. They're talking about vagrants all over the place. Very little positive is coming from the group. Only negatives. Can you, as a chair in your last year in office, explain from a scale of 1 to 10 or percentage, not to 100, what is your estimation of service delivery in Ward 31? Would you say it's 20%, 30%, 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10? Go for it, Abdul.
Thank you, Yunus. First, I just need to have a small rebuttal with Ernest. My brother on that side, because one thing I don't like is that when we are sitting on shows, is that we play a political game, and the political game you're playing a cap because number one, I'm not a councillor, right? And when you start picking on ANC, then you start picking onto a different fight. Subsequent to this, when I look at what Ernest is actually speaking about, and surprisingly enough, obviously he is in council, which he has full control of a lot of things. And Ernest is doing a fantastic job. I must tell you one thing. I wish I had Ernest in Ward 31. We'd be in a better position. First of all, let me just give clarity. Okay. Because Ernest is doing work, and he's one of those councillors that I work close with him as well. And I think I wrote him a letter to tell him thank you very much for helping with the issue of Ward 27, which is the Hartley Road rehabilitation project. Ernest did fantastic. Now, why can't Ramona McKenzie do the same? Both of you are colleagues. Both are DA.
But they're two different people.
But it's a DA.
No, but the DA now deploys councillors, and they may not be of the same, level of understanding of local government.
But accountability among the councillors needs to be the same. If Ernest can achieve that, why can't Ramona do that?
No.
Why should we be driving in potholes?
Yeah.
Why should we be driving in potholes? Right? Why should we having infrastructure, issues?
So what you're saying is you got a poor service delivery because the councillor is now not very effective.
Agreed.
Now tell us what are the issues, Abdul?
One sec. Before I go there, I don't want to go to the issues as yet. I'm still going on. Furthermore, we even go even more surprisingly. If you're going to keep on throwing stones at the ANC, I'm still going to come with another clarification. Dean McPherson, right? If we look at Dean McPherson, who is he?
He's a DA MP.
But what portfolio is he? He has. He's a Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure.
In province.
Right?
In province.
He's national.
Yes.
So he's the man sitting on top. You got a problem with infrastructure. Who's your man? He's your boss, not my boss. Okay. Why do we belt? Why do we say?
Abdul, I think we have to accept whether you're an ANC man or not, whether
I still
I'm an
say
ANC,
it comes back to
they failed to deliver.
Agreed.
Let our public know. The president has said,
Yes.
he says his municipality hasn't delivered.
Correct.
Now we're dissecting because we've got a council from Ward 27. Sure. In your ward, a scale of 1 out of 10, what would you rate service delivery? 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10? So your public knows, your listeners.
I'll say our service delivery is 3.
3 out of 10.
Yeah.
So it's 30%.
Yeah.
So 70% they're not delivering.
We've got sewer, we've got issues with water, we've got lights, we've got, you name it all. We've got potholes, we've got sinkholes.
And how long have these been reported? How many years?
I mean, from the time I established ORA.
It's 2 years.
Yeah. So ORA had to be established because of service delivery.
So have they responded to anything? That 30% you're saying, what have they responded to?
I would still say, I'm not a councillor. ORA, we are not councillors, but we achieve more than our councillor in the ward. And I won't say because of ANC or anybody else.
So you say the public participation is forcing the employees of the municipality.
Yes, we as ratepayers, we are contacting the municipalities, people who we have, and we're saying, guys, we have X, Y, and Z. Can you assist us? Example, let me give you something big. As ORA, what we achieved, Alpine Road was a bad area.
There's still some heavy potholes.
But guess what? We got the road rehabilitated. We're not even a councillor.
So as a civic structure, you'll have the municipality accountable.
Yes.
You went to the municipality,
Correct.
got them to.
We did
it. Abdul, we need to have a short ad break and we'll continue after that. I'll bring Samuel in.
Yeah, please. Then after that,
This segment is brought to you by Kenfield Auto, your RMI approved service and repair specialist. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Kenfield Auto.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا.
Car won't start.
Kenfield Auto.
Noisy brakes.
Kenfield Auto.
Due for a service.
Kenfield Auto. Kenfield Auto, the answer to all your car problems. Your service and repair specialist for your VW, Audi, Suzuki, Toyota, or just about any vehicle. Kenfield Auto, your RMI and insurance approved workshop to handle them all. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Call us on 031 207 2399. Kenfield Auto.
Get ready to elevate your fitness game at First Fitness in Durban's Berea. With a spacious free weight area, award-winning equipment, and exclusive ladies-only parking and training level, we've got everything you need to crush your goals. Hit the ground running on our outdoor track or unleash your inner warrior in our MMA and boxing dungeon. Plus, enjoy high security and ample parking. And don't forget to refuel at our halal coffee and health restaurant for the best in coffees, smoothies, and healthy eats. Join us today and redefine your fitness journey. First Fitness, dare to be extraordinary.
One child, one dream.
A journey with Africa Muslims Agency that began 3 years ago has changed the lives of Syrian and Palestinian refugee children beyond their dreams. Help them to continue their education by sponsoring a student at the Amman School of Excellence in Lebanon for 25,200 Rand per year. Education at Amman can provide a brighter future for refugee families.
AMA, empowering, educating, inspiring.
Welcome to the Village Co Cafe and Bistro, where flavors dance and every gathering feels like magic. Halal certified and run by 3 sisters, we serve breakfast all day, from bagels and sourdough open sandwiches to burgers, wraps, toasties, tacos, nachos, and our signature coffee blend, crafted just for our cafe. Host your next event with us, all in a space that feels as good as it tastes. Find us at the Westville Village Market, 123 Jan Hofmeyer Road, lower ground level. Call us on 079 670 4093. The Village Co, where every bite feels like home.
We'd love to meet you. Pay us a visit. Radio Al-Ansar.
Ya Rasool Allah, Ya Habib Allah, Aka, 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 Aka. Aka, 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 फिर के गली गली तबाह ठोकर सब की खाए क्यों दिल को जो अक्ल दे खुदा तेरी गली से जाए क्यों रुखसत काफिला कशान गश से हमें उठाए क्यों रुखसत से काफिला कशान गश से हमें उठाए क्यों सोते हैं उनके साए में सोते हैं उनके साए में कोई हमें जगाए क्यों फिर के दिल को जो अक्ल दे खुदा तेरी गली से जाए क्यों यादें हुजूर की कसम गफलत ऐश है सितम यादे हुजूर की कसम गफलत ऐश है सितम खूब है कैद गम में हम खूब है कैद गम में हम कोई हमें छुड़ाए क्यों वो जो न थे तो कुछ न था वो जो न हो तो कुछ न हो वो जो न थे तो कुछ न था वो जो न हो तो कुछ न हो जान है वो जहान की जान है वो जहान की जान है तो जहान
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus live on Radio Al-Ansar International, broadcasting the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM, and streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Before the break, we had a chat with Ernest and Abdul, and they were having a banter with each other. Abdul will be leaving us shortly. So what I want to know from Abdul before you leave, what are the expectations of the ratepayers in Ward 31? You assess service delivery as 3 out of 10. What is lacking, and what is your message to the councillors of the municipalities that are listening, including some of your ANC colleagues, and also to allay the concerns of the communities? Because when you ask them to rate, they may come out 2 out of 10. So what are the key issues? We got 5 minutes before the news break, and I know you need to leave. Can you advise our listeners, Abdul?
Sure. Well, basically, if you look at a few days ago, which is 2 days, we've been having an issue regarding vagrants, and we call them paras in the area. We
Are
have
they
an influx.
sleeping into all these different areas?
Influx all over.
Now, where are they coming from?
They're coming from the CBD.
So they pushed out from the CBD at the ending of year.
In the end of year, right? All over Albert Park into here.
Right.
Why? We are the most, when we come to charity, we're number one. So you got free food, you got free money, free boarding and lodging. And if you look at the policing and the police forums or CPFs, where are they?
So they're allowing these guys to raise around.
People are frustrated because things are getting stolen off their lines. You're getting break-ins, they're getting pipe issues. In fact, burst pipes on a daily basis where
They're
you find
stealing copper pipes, yeah.
That's right, it's happening all the way. Then you find it, also on the street, where we've got the cables. Guys are going up the pole, middle of the night, pulling the cables off. That's another issue. So these are vagrants. These are one of the biggest challenges we're facing now in the ward. And
you have reported that to SAP's Metro Police?
It has been reported.
But the ineffective again?
Ineffective is obviously because you don't have enough, police, team out here.
You have enough police officers, but they're not doing their work. That's another problem.
No. Specifically in the ward, we don't have enough. First of all, we don't have enough vehicles, right, to get up. That's why we have to rely mainly on the CPF and, police forums. These should be much more, active organizations. And, I think we as the people in Overport need to start addressing these issues.
So you say security is limited or ineffective?
Ineffective, I would say.
So you say SAP's Metro Police are having a ball of a time doing nothing?
Well, even if you look at the issue on drugs.
It's getting out of hand.
I mean, drug is a huge issue in our area. Let's be honest.
And when these people get drugged up, then they do all funny things.
Yes. Then you find a person come by you, I'm hungry, give me a loaf of bread. Please buy me bread.
He goes and sells the bread and buys drugs.
Right. He buys the bread you go, you feel bad, you buy the bread for 15 Rand or 20 Rand, whatever the cost of bread is. He takes it, he sells it for 5 Rand, he gets himself a fix.
Right.
And why? We are feeding it. So coming back to service delivery again, issues are, where we're having regular burst pipes. I think even in your area, you were affected for a few days without water.
Yes. Correct.
Because infrastructure, what we've done, we're doing band-aids. Everything has become a band-aid. So it's not like where the budget has come through, which was put through once before. There was a budget that it put through. And I did mention this. Chris Pappas actually had it. If you go back on the file, you have a look at it on Ward 31. He had a budget for rehabilitation of the entire infrastructure here. And that file is basically...
So listen, Abdul, we got a minute or so left for the news break.
Sure.
What's your message to our listeners? In other words, how are we going to fix these problems out? Your president is saying he needs to hold municipalities accountable. He needs more effective civic activism. That refers to the ratepayer associations. Now, you mentioned that Alpine Road, you'll have to go to the municipalities and really work with the mayor to have that road resurfaced or tarred. But obviously, somebody comes and dig, and then you get your potholes again.
Sure.
Throughout the city, there's potholes. There's no prioritization of the budget. Well, after the news break, we're going to discuss it with Ernest and Samuel, and Samuel wants to come in. But what's your message to your ratepayers who are listening in, the ORA people, that you all are now going to put pressure on the municipalities to prioritize service delivery in Ward 31?
Yes.
And you're going to prepare leaders who are going to become councillors in the next election
100%.
to represent them and take the message to not only the councillors, also the municipal officials.
True.
And that's the game you're playing.
We're planning a meeting from the Overport Ratepayers Association. We want to bring the public, the community to this meeting. It will be, with permission, Al-Ansar handled, via here. And we want to invite the entire public. We want to invite the public to come over and list your issues, which we know. We know most of the problems that we have.
Express themselves with solutions to the problems or proposals to solve the problem.
So we're going to take, we'll have consultation with them. And we're gonna listen to whatever they're saying. Not to say we don't know, but it's good to see people coming to the hall and filling up and saying that you want to be part of the solution, not just becoming the problems all the time.
Okay. Abdul, thanks a lot. I must thank Abdul for the effort he's putting in as chair of ORA. He's neglecting his business and he's doing a lot of civic work there. He's working with politicians. He's trying his level best. Abdul, keep up the good work. Thank you for joining us at short notice.
Shukran.
We appreciate your presence here, and we appreciate the fact that you were very candid in the way you presented yourself. Sure. On that note, we'll take a news break, and inshallah, we'll continue our discussion after the news break.
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Al-Ansar News.
Making news this 6th of August, the news from Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM. 4 persons have been sentenced for hits on senior Alfred Duma official Ameri Kimonina. 4 people have been jailed for life for the murder of a civil engineer in Ladysmith. Oscar Ashwayo was killed in a drive-by shooting in 2019. He was the executive director in the Engineering and Infrastructure Services Department at the Alfred Duma local municipality. Report says that a political killings task team investigated the killing and made the arrest that same year. Now, National Police spokesperson Tlandi Marti says that one of the accused, Noma Swazi Shabalala, was also a senior engineer at the municipality, is believed to have ordered the hit. The 4 accused persons were convicted and sentenced at the Madedeni High Court today. More news. Local media says medical graduates yet to be placed or employed are protesting in Durban today. Media reports says the graduates have been protesting their unemployment for a while now. KwaZulu-Natal MEC Nomagogo Similani says they are working on the issues.
Indeed, a week after we spoke to them, as promised, an advert was issued, and we advertised for the 20 posts because that's how much money we had at the time. But we also, when we engaged with them last month, we said we are not stopping with the 20. The provincial government is going to then go look within its coffers to see if we are able to employ any more, because we agree 20 is not enough, even for what we need within our our own needs, 20 doctors is not sufficient when you look at the number of hospitals that we have. So yes, we did advertise. Their problem is that they expected an advert to come out now, and within a week they be employed. And government doesn't work that way. Remember, you have to actually advertise and open for a particular duration. After that, you sift, you shortlist, and all of that. And that's the work that we are busy with now. We are shortlisting, and by the end of this week, we would have finalized the shortlisting, because for just the 20 posts that we advertised, we received more than 1,900 applications.
More news now. It is the children who will suffer. That's the warning from the National Association of School Governing Bodies. It comes amid a controversy surrounding school nutrition scheme contract in KwaZulu-Natal. Education MEC Sipho Hlomuga is accused of influencing the bidding process to favor a company linked to him. The Education Department is currently dealing with appeals and objections before finalizing the contract. Local media says opposition parties want the SIU Special Investigating Unit to investigate the matter. More news. The International Relations Department says the use of the South African flag during a visit by former President Jacob Zuma to Morocco is a breach of diplomatic protocol. The Umkhonto weSizwe party leader met with Morocco's Minister of Foreign Affairs Nassir Bourita last month. Department of International Relations says the use of the South African flag during the meeting created an impression that it was an official state visit. Diplomatic relations between South Africa and Morocco have been strained since 2004, when South Africa formally recognized Western Sahara. The department spokesperson, Crispin Puri, says while Morocco is at liberty to invite anyone to visit the country, it strongly protests the use of South African national symbols since it was not an official state visit. And finally, your international story. Lebanon's Hezbollah resistance movement has condemned the government's decision to disarm it as a grave sin, warning that such a move would weaken the country against Israeli aggression. The group declared it would ignore the decision entirely, treating it as if it did not exist. Yesterday, Lebanon's Prime Minister Nawaf Salam announced that the Lebanese government had requested the National Army to develop a plan by the end of the year, under which only state institutions will be permitted to possess weapons in the country. In response, Hezbollah said in a statement today that the government of Prime Minister Nawaf Salam has committed a grave sin by adopting a decision that strips Lebanon of the weapons of resistance against the Israelis. It added that the decision weakens Lebanon's strength and position in the face of ongoing American-Israeli aggression and grants Israel what it failed to achieve during its assault on Lebanon, which Hezbollah confronted, forcing the Israeli regime to agree on an accord obligating Israel to stop its aggression and withdraw from Lebanon. Your weather tonight, it's 18 degrees. A quick reminder of our top story. 4 people have been jailed for life imprisonment for the murder of a civil engineer in Ladysmith. Oscar Atwayo was killed in a drive-by shooting in 2019. That's the news.
Allah, 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 तन्हा हूँ मैं और इंतहा लाखों तने हैं सामने बैठा हूँ मैं मायूस कुन आए ना कोई मुझे थामने अल्लाह अल्लाह तू मेरी सुन ले सदा حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير मायूब हूँ तेरा करम पर्दा रखा इज्जत भी दी बढ़ के दिया औकात से दौलत भी ताकत भी और वक्त भी कर दे खता हर माफ तू फहरिस्त इसियां को छोड़ दे अल्लाह अल्लाह तू मेरी सुन ले सदा हस्बुनाल्लाह व निअमल वकील हस्बुनाल्लाह व निअमल वकील हस्बुनाल्लाह व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर हस्बुनाल्लाह व निअमल वकील हस्बुनाल्लाह व निअमल वकील हस्बुनाल्लाह व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर हस्बुनाल्लाह व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर रंगीनियों खुद गर्जियों में है गुजारी ये उम्र है आरज़ू बस एक यही कर दूं तेरे नाम शामो सहर तस्कीन दिल हासिल करूं रुख अपनी जाने तू मोड़ दे अल्लाह अल्लाह तू मेरी सुन ले सदा हस्बुनाल्लाह व निअमल वकील हस्बुनाल्लाह व निअमल वकील हस्बुनाल्लाह व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर हस्बुनाल्लाह व निअमल वकील हस्बुनाल्लाह व निअमल वकील हस्बुनाल्लाह व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर हस्बुनाल्लाह व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर लब पे रहे ज़िक्र दुआ
Get ready, Durban. The TBR Family 5 Kilometer Fun Run and Walk is happening. 11 October at the Blue Lagoon Lawns, kicking off at 7 a.m. Join us for a day packed with excitement, a scavenger hunt, kite building, a burger eating showdown, and prizes galore. Enjoy food trucks, family games, and a live 6-hour broadcast from Radio Al Ansar. Don't forget, bring a new toy to brighten a child's day in hospital. Durban, get ready for the event of the season. The Sultan Bahu Family Fete is happening from August 7th through 10th from 10 a.m. to midnight. Experience a whirlwind of fun, thrilling rides at the Grand Fun Fair, side-splitting comedy, captivating Qawwali, delicious food from diverse vendors, incredible shopping finds, and awesome giveaways. This isn't just fun, it's healing hearts. Don't miss the Sultan Bahu Family Fete, where joy meets generosity. For inquiries, call Tasneem on 081-836-2888. The Sultan Bahu Family Fete, a fete with purpose. Sultan Bahu is a registered NPO and PBO.
Durban Halal Meats, the butcher with a twist. Whether you're firing up the braai or stocking up for your business, we've got you covered. From premium lamb, beef, and chicken to custom cuts and bulk orders, all 100% halal, certified by Sanha. Enjoy our convenient buy and braai service, fast delivery, and easy online ordering at durbanhalalmeats.co.za. Visit us at 84 Felix Dlamini Road, Durban Halal Meats. Quality, affordability, trust. Meat made better.
Get ready for an evening of inspiration and impact. Join Islamic Lifestyle Solutions for their annual fundraising dinner, Dawa Dimensions, featuring a powerful book launch, Divine Calling, How God Addresses Humankind in the Quran, and spiritually uplifting Qira and Qasaid with Daf by Sheikh Noor Aswad. Plus, exciting prize giveaways, including a free Umrah ticket and a 7-course meal. Friday, 15th August 2025 at NNJ Islamic Center, 6 p.m. Tickets only 250 Rand, no reserved seating. Don't miss out. Book now.
Radio Al Ansar.
Audio stream across the world on radioalansar.co.za.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International, broadcasting the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Marisburg 105.6 FM, and streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Before the news break, we were chatting about service delivery, and we had Abdul Valodia from the ORA that rated service delivery 3 out of 10 in the Overport area, and he indicated some of the serious challenges of vagrancy, potholes not being fixed up, stormwater drains, water outages, etc. I'd like to bring Samuel back on air. Samuel was very anxious to come in when Abdul and Ernest were having a banter. Samuel, please come in and comment. I think when I cut you off that time, you were talking more about sort of the deficit in our GDP. But I want to bring you back to the subject. Now we need to continue later on with the JNU and MK's fight against the dual police setup. So we got limited time. So I just want to conclude on service delivery in the municipality.
Let me start by saying, thanks, Yunus. Let me start by saying the show kicked off with the comment of the president. And voters, people, citizens, ratepayers are wanting value for their buck. Now, most will be saying, has Mr. Ramaphosa just suddenly woken up? Yes, he's woken up tactically on the basis of politicking. They know, the ANC knows all the pitfalls, they know the challenges, and the challenges are vis-a-vis, primarily, they're a human resource challenge. Just remember, everything you do in life is a human resource. I remember in the year 2000, everybody said Y2K, there'll be no papers, everything will be digital, this will happen, that'll happen. It never happens. In fact, it's gone worse. The issue with the Tegwini and Msunduzi, because the radio station's got a big listenership in Msunduzi, is you have a human capital problem. It's a square peg in a round hole. You have a problem where it's an issue of literacy and numeracy. And they are the majority. It's not a disrespect. It's not a categorization of a particular group of people. It's the gap between where standard operating procedure is versus entry level. It's quite wide. It's called the schism. So we need to, and this is one of the mistakes the municipalities made, not just municipality, most of them. They haven't put in what we call human resource development programs to upskill. We see it on the roads with the potholes. They fix today, next week it's tars coming up again. The same with electricity, the same with pipes, the same everywhere.
There's poor standards of service
it's just
delivery.
The standard cannot be attained. And what it does, particularly...
The standard is below par, you're saying?
Very, very low. Now I've heard what Abdul said, and he's probably listening. To blame Ramona is sometimes it's an overkill. The councillor is doing her work. I'm not a member of the DA. I'm not in a million years will I be.
They may offer you an MP.
No, thank you. But let me just say
that will earn you 100K. They're part of the GNU and they're going to be government soon.
We call them bedfellows. The mistake the ANC and the DA have made, including the PA and including the IFP, is you cannot be a governing entity and an opposition at the same time. It just doesn't. It's not the right fit anywhere in the world.
You know what the DA is saying is we joined the GNU because this ANC is going downhill, and we want to bring them up a little bit, like what we've done in Cape Town and other municipalities run by the DA. And we're hoping we can bring back service delivery to a level which is probably 5 out of 10 because it's sitting at 3 out of 10. So they came to assist the municipality, and Dean McPherson and others have proven that with their limited time being involved, they sort of picking up maladministration and looking at ways and means of getting contractors to deliver. So I'm saying give it a bit of time. We're going to chat about it. The ANC backs GNU, but they have some criticism. We're going to talk about that. Now, coming back to the point that you want to make is, and I think a very important point is that human capital problem.
It's a human capital problem.
Now, if you say 75% of the problem in the municipality is incompetent staff, because they're putting pals there because those guys are their foot soldiers in the ground for elections. So they got to reward them. An individual who hardly has got any management experience, they're making him a head of a department. And below him, you've got experienced people who know more than that individual, him or her, and they can't be managed. So that's what you're saying. There's a human capital problem, and that is causing a problem in service delivery.
Can I just say for the listener, this is the nub. You see minorities in this city and in Pietermaritzburg, by and large, constitute over 22% of the populace in terms of the demographic. But if you look at the appointments in eThekwini and Msunduzi, they're actually against minorities, right? And I'm coming back to the human capital issue, which is a human resource placement problem. eThekwini, by and large, in all strategic roles, there are no minorities. And as long as you have that, because you've got to understand that up until 30 years ago, right, the education system was fraught, finished. Who's most of the people in eThekwini? Are those pre-1994? So pre-94 has nothing to do with their level of education. Most of them got degrees, most of them got this, most of them got that. But it's the level of life skill, it's the level of literacy, it's the level of numeracy, it's a level of English translation, it's a level of conceptualization, it's a level of business ethics, it's a level of integrity. Not saying that nobody's integrity.
So
but
having identified the problem, are the existing hierarchy, the councillors, EXCO, the portfolio committees, the heads of departments, they just overlooking this to say we want a particular race group to be appointed, and that's it?
Here's a simple answer. You were in that meeting with me, with Ramona, with that fella Kaunda. He was the mayor. Came with his whole team here. 20 of them.
Correct.
Deputy city managers, this, that, heads of department. They can't even fix Asherville. Still hasn't been attended to Asherville swimming pool. The point I'm making, rhetoric to come and make noise and do newspaper politics, which is what Ramaphosa is doing. People want basic services, right? People don't vote DA because they like the DA. They vote DA because they hate the ANC. But now that the ANC is a DA, the DA is the ANC, and they won. So there's 4 colors now. It's blue and white, green, red, and black, 5 colors.
We're going to challenge that
Right.
when it comes to the GNU. There's a message that comes through from Mohammed Farooq Patel. He's saying Abdul is correct. DA always throwing the buck. Tell him to check Cape Town where non-whites living. But he chose the wrong example because Cape Town is delivering. Ernest, what's the story? Does he know what he's talking about?
Okay, I'm gonna take my political hat off and I'm gonna put it down.
Just look at it objectively.
No, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing, and that's what I love to do, and I think that's why a lot of people also effectively engage, because there is a lot of work that has to be done, no matter where you are. If you want to use Cape Town as an example, all right, that's fine, fair. The ANC was in government until the DA took over. Correct me if it was 2006, if I'm not mistaken. And it was
Helen Zille.
Yeah, when Helen Zille was there and Patricia de Lille and everyone.
You mean the Western Cape?
Yeah, the Western Cape. Yeah, I'm talking about
Cape Town.
Yeah, Cape Town, this
Yes.
actual municipality. And remember, prior to that, there'd already been 10 or 15 years of ANC mismanagement. And Sam was quite correct. The reality of it is, if you're going to bring in people who are not best fit for the job you are advertising, and you're going to continuously take subpar individuals based on political affiliation, whether it is the DA doing it, whether it is the ANC, whether it's the PA, whether it's the IFP, if that is your modus operandi, you cannot blame anyone else but yourself when you are sitting in a position 10 or 15 or 30 years down the line when your own municipality cannot deliver or is failing to deliver. At the end of the day, one has to ask yourself, why did this happen? Why are we sitting with people who are incompetent? Because the reality is no matter what's going to happen, if there's no terms of accountability and you bring in these people, no matter who they are, and you don't get the best fit for purpose and the best out of those people with degrees and whatnot. And might I add, on top of that, let's not assume that everybody with a degree also knows what they're doing, because we've had a number of incidents of people who have bought degrees. I mean, you look at the last 10 years of it, people saying they've got PhDs and master's degrees. They're going around and they were appointed on specific jobs and roles, only to find out there's no record of this. The institution doesn't have this person on file. So the reality of it is the people who are hiring need to do an effective background check to make sure that they are hiring best fit for purpose, one, no matter who the political people are there. And you have to ensure that your person at the top, your city manager, the CFO, and his cohort there are people of integrity. Now, how do you do that? That's effectively determined by what they do and how they do it, and are they able to match what they say? I can also say I'm a city manager, but I do bugger all. Excuse my French.
So what you're saying is you must have that management and leadership skills when you're holding these positions together with the technical competence.
Yes.
For example, if you claim you're going to be a CFO, you must have the qualification of a chartered accountancy or a BCom degree with commerce as a graduate,
exactly.
as a sort of, would you the necessary qualifications. And if you're an engineer, you must have an engineering qualification together with the experience to be head of engineering department, which most municipalities are not really following. But I want to bring Hassan in shortly. I just want to chat briefly about effective management, having the right people at the top to motivate those below. Let's look at the South African rugby side that has won the World Cup twice, that have got, an integrated team. The captain is Sia Kolisi, black, but they have competent black individuals that are playing together with white and colored counterparts. Yes. And you have a good mix, and they won the Rugby World Cup twice. The Proteas won the Cricket World Cup, and they have a nice mix of competent people based on merit. So the country can work as long as you appoint the right people for the job, like what has been proven in the sports fraternity. In most of the sports, soccer, okay, it's a bit
I was about
down,
to say that.
But what I'm saying is that needs to be improved. But if you look at the work situation, a similar principle applies. Because if you don't have the personnel to do the work, you're not going to have the achievement.
That's it.
Now, off the record, we were talking about soccer, Premier League soccer. And Man U is sitting probably 17th of the 20 positions because they had the wrong coach, wrong managers, wrong players, etc. And they're trying to fix that up. Whereas other sides, they are scouting the correct players to make sure they deliver. So likewise, in a work situation in municipalities, what you are saying is get competent people, forget about the race.
Yes.
And as a mayor, who may be a black mayor or chair of Exco might be a black, but if he's got the right personnel, he or she will get the credit.
Yes.
Now, the country fails to realize that you cannot work on just having civic structures that are linked to a particular political party. Hassan, I want to bring you in now.
No footballer.
The financial situation is stable, notwithstanding Trump and his antics on increasing tariffs. At the same time, petrol price has come down from today. Diesel went up, but the rand is performing fairly well. The JSE indices is still around the 99,000 mark. So I know Eskom is having some issues, but they're looking at it. So, the country as a whole is not performing too bad, given the problems that we are highlighting from declining service delivery in municipalities. But notwithstanding all that, the financial setup in the country, I know the sort of GDP problem that Sam was talking about is cause for concern. But generally, if you look at the markets in South Africa, they're not performing too bad from a financial angle.
Sure. So I think the economy and the markets, there's a bit of a disconnect slightly. From an economic perspective, we've had it's been stable. So we've had at least some stability in terms of a couple of key areas. Firstly, inflation has been relatively stable now for the past year or so. Last numbers came out around 3%, and the governor is still targeting, although he's been under a bit of pressure, I see, from the ANC in terms of talking about a target of around 3%, or the lower end of his 3 to 6%, where historically they were looking at the 4.5% of the midpoint as the target. But nonetheless, inflation has been relatively stable. The economy has been okay. It's been pedaling along. Still, we're still under, a percent type of GDP growth, and that you cannot, to generate jobs, which unemployment remains the biggest issue and biggest challenge for the country, you need to generate in excess of 3-4% per annum GDP growth to try and start at least chipping away at that unemployment number. So the economy is stable. The rand's had some strengthening over the last couple of months, but that's mainly been on the back of the weakness in the US dollar. And at the same time, you've had some stability in terms of inflation and the like. Financial markets, on the other hand, have been driven by, firstly, global financial markets have been running phenomenally over the last few months. But remember also, the mix of the companies in the JSE has changed also dramatically over the last 20 years. So more and more, a big representation of the companies in the JSE are largely global or multinational companies. For example, the biggest company in the JSE that makes up the two biggest companies that's listed that make up in excess of 10% of the JSE is Naspers and Prosus. Their business is largely Tencent to a large extent, and also other internet-related company, but Tencent, which is a Chinese company, that makes up and that's been a strong performer in terms of the share price over the last year or so, plus couple of years, and that's obviously propelled the JSE. Secondly, you've had very strong performance also coming through from many of our resources companies over the last couple of months. Gold has been a phenomenal performer over the last 2 to 3 years. So the likes of Anglo Gold Ashanti, Sibaya Gold, Sibanye, Goldfields, their share prices are up phenomenally, but it's been on the back of a strong gold price. And also, majority of these companies now, a major part of their mining and the like is done outside of South Africa. Again, another important issue. The one way on the mining side has done phenomenally, was done very well in the last few months, and still has a big part of the operations in SA is the platinum miners. So whether it's Amplats or not, they call a new name now because they listed Valdera, and then you've got Impala Platinum and Northern and the like. So they have least now, as platinum prices has picked up and the like, the share prices have done very well, and it's obviously so the JSE has done very well, but it may not be a proper reflection of how South African companies and how the South African economy is doing or has done over the past year. Whereas the domestic companies, whether it's the banks, the retailers, some of them are doing relatively well. The banks have had a really, really strong run over the last few years. And the fact that now the Reserve Bank has cut, again, interest rates this past week by another 25 basis points, again, it's good for the economy because it allows those that are in debt and also allows a bit more activity in terms of funding and financing. So that, again, where the banks should continue to do okay. The retailers are relatively okay, as in there's two parts to it. The clothing retailers, it's still a tough situation. You look at the likes of Woolies Clothing, or you look at Truworths and the Fushini Group and the like, they are going okay, steadily doing well. But the value retailers, like the Mr. Price and the Pepco, they're doing very well because, again, it's still tough out there, and consumers are still looking for value for their buck. So, for $100, they want to get still a shirt or a T-shirt and the like, whereas you're going to sometimes maybe a Woolies Clothing or other higher branded, you're not getting the same value for it. Whereas the Mr. Price and the Pepcos and the Ackermans, they're giving you still that value, and they're doing pretty well in this environment. The food retailers are doing relatively well. ShopRite is still the king in the food retail business, and they're doing pretty well. And at the same time, though, Pick n Pay, who has been under massive pressure over the last decade or more, under now Sean Summers, has slowly starting to turn around. First time we've seen this, when they reported recently, first time we've seen positive growth, like for like positive growth for Pick n Pay in a long time. And Sean Summers is a veteran in terms of the retail industry, and you can see some of the stuff he's been doing in terms of closing non-performing stores, but that means also it has an impact. Now, while we talked about the past, looking forward, this rates impact, this tariff impact that has come through is going to impact, unless in the next, for a few weeks, they're still talking about potentially. I mean, the Switzerland president just flew in and had a talks with Trump to try and see because they've been impacted with 39% tariffs on their exports. So there's still a possibility, but whether it'll happen and when it'll happen, we don't know. But if 30% remains, our automotive sector and the agriculture sector is impacted. And potentially 30,000 jobs, at least within the next 6 to 12 months, will be impacted. So it's going to be a big impact, particularly the Eastern Cape. And that's where the big challenge is. And the president is talking about a support desk and trying to come. How effective will be, we're not sure. But I think the private sector is working behind the scenes and trying to see if they can address it and try and help where they can. But the fact of the matter is, it still remains a challenge. To give you a company call, let me get that name, in the Eastern Cape, it's called Gendermark Automation, based in Gqeberha. They lost, just on the back of this over the weekend, they've lost an order now for 750 million rands. This is just one automation. So this company is involved in, they build machinery and software for the automotive sector. This is just one company that employs a couple of hundred people that's now lost a big contract on the back of this. And that you're going to be more stories of that happening with these Mercedes-Benz and the like. That's going to happen. So it is a big impact. I think that is the biggest risk at the moment for us in the next 6 months or 12 months in terms of the economic impact and the fact that particularly certain provinces will be badly impacted. And the one that stands out is obviously the Eastern Cape, but the Western Cape as well, especially from a citrus perspective, will have an impact as well. And some of our beef producing provinces as well will also have a related impact as well. So I think we are if the tariffs was not there, I would have said, we're chugging along and we could still show maybe some positive growth. Unfortunately, if tariffs remain at 30% and it continues for a period of time, the economy will see an impact in terms of GDP growth and job loss. Unemployment levels will obviously rise on the back of that there. So I think, Yunus, it's a tough environment, as in there are some outside challenges which is obviously impacting the country, and there has to be some bold decisions being made by government and the private sector to try and alleviate some of the challenges. The earlier in the program, the whole focus was around service delivery. I mean, it's just ridiculous that the impact in terms of whether it's corruption or mismanagement or just poor skills that are in place that is impacting. I mean, the mayor of Joburg has been asked now by the Minister of Finance to explain 24.4 billion of wasted Johannesburg funds. And he's been given 14 days to address it. And if there's no proper explanation to address whatever, the Minister of Finance is looking to cut back in terms of funding for Johannesburg on the back of that. So I think now slowly it seems that you had President Ramaphosa talking about holding municipalities accountable, and now the minister, maybe there's now a lot more added pressure because of these external factors that are impacting us, that hey, We need to now focus on addressing our internal own goals, which has hampered us dramatically and badly for a number of years. Let's focus on addressing some of these issues here, because now we're getting it from all sides. Not only domestically our challenges, but now also these external forces are, and this is a bit more within our control. What is within our control, let's focus and address it and nip it in the bud. And that's what they need to focus on. And I think if there's a lot more now, hardness and push towards addressing the corruption. This weekend, last week we just talked about that IDT CEO and the like of 800 odd million. And what Daily Maverick produced this morning, a video showing the CEO and somebody else giving a bag of cash of 60,000 rand to the journalists to try and squash this. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And unfortunately, this is what we faced with. We have to address it, try and get the right. We've got the skills. Make no mistake, we do have a lot of skills also in the country that we can utilize and tap it and place them into key positions and important positions to turn it around. But we must have the willpower to say, those appointments that are not performing, sack them and replace them with the right skills and provide them with the necessary resources.
Thanks, Hassan. What we are sort of talking about is financial mismanagement. There's a concern about it in all sectors in government. The Auditor General's report is highlighting that as well. I think Sam mentioned that, over and above, human capital problem, that's linked up with financial mismanagement and billions of rands is being wasted. And I think Ernest has also spoken about that. We just want to hop into the next subject, which is basically the GNU. The ANC-NEC backs the GNU. Despite growing challenges and ongoing policy disagreements, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa maintains that forming the government of national unity was the right decision. He's disagreeing with you, Sam. He says it's the right decision. Yet the ANC is now turning to parties outside the coalition for support. After a bruising budget crisis that nearly brought Parliament to a standstill, the ANC's highest decision-making body, the National Executive Committee, has resolved to engage with political parties outside the GNU to stabilize governance and push for key reforms. Now, the NEC welcomed the comprehensive report from the GNU task team assessing the performance of Government of National Unity since its establishment immediately after the 2024 elections. The NEC identified significant progress in the GNU's work over the past 12 months. Within Parliament, the ANC has adapted to the complexity of operating in a political landscape where it no longer holds the majority. So reports that are coming through is that there is progress in terms of the GNU. The ANC is committed. Whether there's pressure from the capitalists or alternatively, this is a correction of the problems in the past. And it is now hopeful that you're bringing in other parties to the fore, that you'll start dealing with maladministration, you'll start dealing with fraud and corruption, and action will be taken against the perpetrators. But at the same time, the funds in the budget is being channeled correctly to service delivery. So Sam, I'd like you to come in quickly, because you were concerned that to have the DA, who's supposed to be an opposition working with the ANC, that particular formula may not work, but reports coming through, it's working. So what's your take, Sam?
Thanks, Yunus. It's like saying how long is a piece of string? Everybody has a view. One of the things I didn't like when I was studying, I didn't, not necessarily like it, but it was a bit of a dull subject, was statistics. Everybody has a view on statistics, and anybody who studies statistics would tell you there's always stats in stats. Okay? Because stats you can play with. How do we measure the effect of a government, any government, whether it's local government, provincial government, or national government? You measure it by the end result. And the end result in South Africa is number one. Inflation has not changed. Number two, you made the point, which I seconded. The bulk of the people are living on the poverty datum line, PDL, and lower. Meaning people are struggling to put bread on the table. They're struggling to pay their bills. They are being squeezed by high interest rates, high food prices. It's not a GNU, it's a coalition government. The coalition government, led by the ANC, has not, I don't want to use the word failed, has not been effective with the DA in dealing with the issues that affect ordinary citizens. However, the reason why everybody says it's working, it's only working to keep the MK out. To keep MK out. That's a fact. What I can say to voters, to listeners, to citizens, the challenge we have is that national government has no impact on local government. Ernest made that point very clear, which we all agree. I come from that space. We're going into an election very shortly, where in this city in particular, and Pietermaritzburg, Msunduzi, MK are going to take over. And guess what's going to happen? It's going to get worse, right? Because you've got these governments of contrast. That's what they're called. And so what we need to say as citizens, what we want, how do we measure inflation, food prices, interest rates, affordability, change in people's disposable income? My learned colleague, my Hassan Motala, those are the things people want, right? JSE makes the investors more rich, doesn't make our people rich. Our people want to see bottom line savings. They want to see service delivery. They want housing lists to be reduced. They want more houses, Yunus. They want decent housing. They want potable water. Let me give you an example. This is an SOP, and I'll say it very quickly. How do we know that the water tankers, that the water's been tested? We don't know. Our people are just taking water, right? Because there's no standards. There's no standards. So what I'm saying, government at local level needs to change 360 degrees. In other words, got to do the complete opposite of what they're doing. And they got to deliver credible, proper, decent, practical, viable, feasible, cheap services without corruption.
Okay, so Sam, ANC failed us for the last 30 years.
It's failed us. And MK will be worse.
MK is a branch of the ANC.
Absolutely.
The leader, JZ, was alleged to be involved in various degrees of corruption. His followers, who were being, charged.
He needs to prove the opposite.
Well, he's finding it difficult. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to pick up that those that left the ANC left because they were facing charges for corruption, maladministration. So they escaped into another party and they split the vote. Now everybody's asking what is the alternative.
Not the DA.
The DA may be opposed because of their
the compromise.
Support of Zionism. But having supported Zionism, they're saying, listen, we were pre-apartheid administrators, post-apartheid administrators. The municipalities we're running them effectively. Whereas 70% of the funds are being embezzled by the other parties, we may have embezzled 30%. I'm not saying that is a fact, but 70% we're putting on the ground. We got to give credit where it's due because we're dealing with people's lives.
Absolutely.
Now, the problem and the challenge we face is that this GNU that the ANC government, current government said, listen, we got rid of the problem people and they ran to EFF or they gone into MK. MK is arguing and exposing the ANC when they were part of the ANC before that. So people are laughing. Now I want to bring you in, Ernest. We got 15, 20 minutes left. In terms of the vision of the DA for the GNU, because we have a government of national unity, and John Steenhuisen mentioned that although I was coerced into opposing the GNU in a lot of areas, but if I do that, I'm opposing my own government. So he chose not to, but he raised the issue of the budget, and obviously they engaged, and that issue was sorted out. Now, the situation is simple.
Can you put it this side?
The support that the DA is getting throughout the country and indeed municipalities, that is going into the provinces and will go into the municipalities come 2026. This is a real situation, Sam. What Ramaphosa, in his wisdom, is trying to work out is that how do I ensure efficient service delivery? We all may have stolen quite a bit, in his opinion, and enough is enough. Let's give it back to the people. 2026, even if the ANC wins 30% or 40% of the support in eThekwini, and they get the DA's 20% and the smaller parties, they're still in control of eThekwini. And that seems to be the game that is being played by the GNU in the forthcoming elections. Ernest, am I talking the correct language or am I off the track?
Let me comment. Okay, I'm just going to rewind a bit. The ANC has got an identity crisis because in itself, you have people who want the country to work. They have people who actively want the country to work. Let's call a spade here.
Okay.
But in the same cohort of people, you also have people who are still trotting around between two ideas, whether they should jump ship before it's too late or they should hang around to save their jobs. Because remember, and I'm glad you mentioned it, when it comes to the thought processes people put behind governance, you have to have a long-term approach of what actions I take now will impact the next 5 or 10 years. That's not happening. So you have a bunch of people who are internally having a problem. When we come along and say, well, guys, actually where we have been voted into, a majority municipality government, we're actually taking what the residents are saying, ratepayers and what, and we are trying as best as we can to undo the amount of damage that you've done for the last 15, 20 years, and still trying to take in what we can to push through to service the people. That's the fundamental point, service to the people. You're from housing. You know the quality of houses that were being produced 10, 15 years ago versus the last 5 years. And the outputs matched what was set down per their targets and KPIs. It's not being done. I mean, I think we are at probably 30%, 20% of the targets 10 years ago. And the quality is not the same. So you have to ask yourself, where did we go wrong in the last 10 years? And I mean, I won't presume to speak for at a national level because obviously I'm not in the caucuses and the like, but the reality is we as people, citizens of the country, have, whether we've joined the organizations in the past and let go and not whatever, we have put a bunch of idiots there. And I'm talking primarily about the ANC and the EFF and the like, because you have put populists there. Let's be honest about that. You have put a bunch of populists who are only worried about themselves, all right? And that's where it clashes with service delivery. Because when you look at it and say, well, what credentials do you have that actually says prior to your public service, because we call it public service, what have you done in the community that was so marvelous? What can you prove? I've joined politics and I was a struggle veteran and the like. Okay, good for you. But what have you actively done to build this country post-apartheid? What have you done? I can't tell me it's the number of houses we've built because that's been decreasing. You can't tell me it's replacing 300 kilometers of infrastructure every month for over 12 months. You can't tell me that. So the wheel has fallen off the bandwagon in terms of prioritizing the people. Essentially, that's what's happened, because you cannot tell me that in 15 years, every president we've had, has not had this question of saying, actually, we are jeopardizing our ratepayers. We are jeopardizing the people that we want the money from. Businesses, agricultural sector, the business and like. Why have we not made doing business in this country easier? Why have we not done that? That's the first question. The second question would be to say, how are we holding our own comrades effectively accountable while they are still in the same organization? Why are we not doing that? Oh, I'm sorry, because I'm going to lose votes. So the reality of it is we have found ourselves at a baseline level, and this is something I want to emphasize to the voters at large. They hold the power and the direction of the municipalities in their hands. That cannot be understated. If you want a municipality that functions, put a effect, and I don't want to say politicians, but put enough politicians there, and whoever's committing to effective service delivery, put them there to effectively do what you are asking. Because the same mayor, the same speaker, the same deputy mayor can turn around and to the city manager and say, actually, naughty, you haven't done a good job. Your officials are failing us. But it doesn't help when we have, over the last 15, 20 years, trying to combat something which we have tacitly approved.
So what you're saying, Ernest, is that the stats, Sam talks about stats, in South Africa clearly proves that 80% or more of the voters are African or black.
Yes.
So they call the shots. The minorities can put a certain percentage of councillors into place, but they're not going to make the majority. Now, the ANC has predominantly the black support in the past, 60, 65%. Now it's split between MK and EFF in many provinces. But the majority of the provinces, the ANC still has the stronghold. So their concern is KZN, Gauteng, and a few other provinces, because depending on the stronghold. Now, the appeal to the black voters is that if you're not getting service delivery, make the change. Ramaphosa, in his wisdom, having the percentages that vary in the different provinces and municipalities, together with his NEC members, have begun to realize that we got to work with parties that has the vision of improved service delivery.
That's exactly.
Not on race lines. And that's a game he's playing, and that's why we're talking about the GNU, and we're looking at successes. Samuel obviously has another opinion, but he hasn't come in with the alternative. This is the alternative we're talking about, because we're talking real situation now.
I do have an alternative.
Yeah. Now, the real situation is that there's a trial taking place in the last year, and there are successes, and those belonging to other parties in the GNU actually telling the ANC that, listen, you're supporting that vision, it's not working. And then in their caucuses, they're beginning to realize reality is we're not going to be in government if we don't deliver. And we're looking at local government elections. Whilst I, as a president, made those promises for the last 10 years, I'm going to start kicking butts now in municipalities and getting rid of these officials that are not delivering from the city manager
his
downwards.
Own party has lost support.
That's right. Now, I want to conclude. We got 4 minutes left. Sam, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. You said you got an alternative. The public is listening to us and saying GNU has made changes, has improved service delivery from the government level, looking at the municipalities to bring GNU into the municipalities as well. That seems to be the vision, knowing well that MK has split the ANC. So what is the alternative, Sam, in 2 minutes?
Politically, I mean, we don't want to knock political parties, but nonetheless, we have to tell the truth. One, and I wrote an op-ed. This op-ed is currently going to be circulated to over 200,000 people in this province. And it's also going outside of the province specifically directed to dark-skinned minorities. One, don't vote for independents. Because when you vote for an independent in local government, you lose 50% of the vote. Please. I mean, anybody, you don't need to go to school to understand that. that a political party gets 2 ballot papers, an independent only gets 1. Okay? Whether you know the guy. 2, don't vote for one-man parties because they sell your vote out.
Okay.
With no disrespect.
Correct, relevant, important.
Abdul Valodia was sitting here. He spoke about a PR councillor called Imtiaz Said. What he forgot, it's just down the road here, is a councillor called Aslam Shahid. He's a TA councillor. What has he done? He's never been here. He's not vocal.
Okay, so what you're saying is the first part is to consider voting for a councillor that links to a political party so that PR vote comes in.
Yeah.
Now, the selection of that political
I'm
party.
getting there.
Right.
I'm getting there. So choose wisely. Try not to vote independent because you're just wasting a vote. 3, we know for a fact that the ANC will go from 95 seats in 2021, they'll go down to about 30 seats. Fact. We've seen that. How do we measure it?
That's your prediction.
No, you measure it on facts, historical facts. You look at 17% of 2024 election.
So you're saying MK is going to take the balance?
MK will take the balance.
That's a prediction.
However,
right.
For the minority, because remember, the bulk of the people we talk to are minorities, right? I've never been wrong on this program for the last 5 years. However, minorities constitute up to 25% of the city.
So you're talking specifically at eThekwini and Gauteng?
I'm talking at eThekwini now, right?
You're not talking other provinces?
Not other provinces.
So to rectify eThekwini, you're saying the ANC will come down to what percentage?
I think they'll come down to about, I'll talk about seats.
No, I'm talking about percentage of the votes. 20, 30%? 20%?
They'll come down to about 20.
20. And
22.
MK will get what percent?
MK will come up to about 40.
Right.
Right.
And the DA will
The
around?
DA is never grown.
So it'll be about 22%.
The DA will sit there at 50-something seats.
No, 22%.
Whatever, 22, 23%.
So ANC 20%, DA 22%.
Yeah.
And the balance of power will be the minorities.
Balance of power with the minorities.
Minorities have to link up either with the ANC and the DA to get power.
No. When you vote one-seat party, one-man-led parties, you have no control, we've seen it, as to how they cast their allegiance.
So how would the minorities link up with which political party?
Minorities, and I've put it in the op-ed, minorities need to seriously consider, do they want to align, continue aligning with the DA? Let me give you an example of the DA quickly. There's 5 wards in Phoenix, DA wards. Abdul is complaining about Overport, DA ward. The very ANC is stifling them. The very ANC coalition partner in National is stifling them here.
Hold on, Sam will come to the debate in another show. What are you coming to?
The point I'm coming to
is that you're saying the minorities have to choose a party.
Minorities need to be...
There's parties that are linked to the GNU who are likely to control municipalities in the trend that's following. Now, if they join MK, can MK deliver? And if the answer is no, they're going to get worse, then who do they join to improve service delivery?
Minorities need to remain kingmakers. And let me tell you the difference.
To remain kingmakers, you said that they must join a party, because if they're independent, then they become kingmakers.
Minorities need to do some serious introspection as to what do they want. Because they first voted ANC.
We're running out of time. I want to stop you there on the basis that you brought up a consideration that's very important, to the point where you mentioned that those 10% of minorities can make the difference. They need to decide which parties they link up with to make the majority in municipalities to improve service delivery. Are these parties linked to the GNU, yes or no? Or do they vote for the radical parties? That's a discussion for another day.
Correct.
Closer to elections. Thanks for bringing it to our attention. Hassan, your concluding remarks, 2 minutes.
Not even me on this one.
I think there's on the GNU you've had, it's been a rough road over the past year, but it has brought about, I think, some element of stability, if you can call it that. The budget impasse was obviously one of the big sort of rocky roads, if you can call it that. But I think the NC is also, and in the NEC, they've talked about that they may look outside of the GNU to align and discuss with parties. Just one point I want to highlight, and this is just about, what South Africa's been through now over there since democracy, and potentially things that they can do in terms of where we can improve going forward as a country, economically, politically, and the like. So Moletsi Mbeki, which is the our former President Thabo Mbeki's brother, he's got views which sometimes may not sit right with many people, but he does come up with certain points and certain ideas which you think out of the box, and he comes up with things with him. So he delivered a paper recently at the FW de Klerk Foundation's conference on achieving an inclusive economy. And a couple of key points, and I'm not going to go through all of it, but just 2 or 3 key points he highlighted. One thing he highlighted, he said, overhaul our education system. One of the key hindrances and the hamstringing the South African economy has been what the education system has done over the last 30 years. He says from where we were to where we are now, we're now sitting at 132 out of 169 countries globally in terms of the quality of our education system globally. He says overhaul that, get it to where the education has a meaningful impact in terms of graduates coming into the economy. Secondly, South Africa historically gave example of South Africa and the US over 150 years where they were both similar, and they had to say, but the ones evolved into becoming the largest economy in the world. The one is the largest in Africa, but still by a mile per GDP per capita, one is $6,000, the other is $8,000. He says one of the things South Africa can do is, because we are over-reliant on minerals and resources, is to focus on industrial modernization. And that means incorporating areas such as digital and fourth industrial revolution, and it can be done. But to do that, you need to have policies that promotes it, policies and incentives that can promote that type of economy and that can drive, and that will lead to employment and the like. And the third one I just want to highlight is that we've had in the last 20, 30 years, a massive amount of urbanization that's taking place in South Africa. Gauteng's gone from, if I look at it, there was an article I read for last week or whatever, there was an article that showed Gauteng went from, in the last 20 years, from 9 million to 16 million population over 20 years. That's why the infrastructure and the like is buckling under it, because they can't control that. Moletsi is talking about drop an urbanization plan for South Africa where there's a bit more control in terms of how you see flow of people between the rural and urban, and also develop a strategy for the rural areas so that it makes it attractive for people to stay there, develop and creating employment in those areas, and also developing those parts of the country as well. I'll leave it at that. I think there's just a couple of key things, but it's important to
read a message out here. Salams, in the years between 1979 to 1993, the municipality was run well.
Absolutely.
One of the reasons the metro municipality boundary was smaller with competent staff.
100%.
Now, I think what's becoming important is what Ernest has been talking about, the decline. Now, another listener wrote in and said, Salam's good show. These beggars, paras, car guards need to go. They are filthy. They basically come to our car windows. They insist must give them something. We shop in Overport and they stole a parcel in the car window. Please do something, which is obviously what our friend Abdul was talking about. One listener wrote in and said, you don't see this in Westville because maybe they feel that the communities won't give them anything. So we have a serious problem, Ernest. And obviously, Sam mentioned a kind of a solution, but it's leading to the GNU, whether directly or indirectly, because at the end of the day, people are not interested in races anymore.
Yeah.
They're not interested in jobs for pals. They're saying we're paying a large amount in utilities, electricity costs are going up, we're paying a high rates, we're paying, it's people can't survive under 10 grand a month. Pensioners are getting 2.5 grand, they got to look for 6-7 grand elsewhere. Those people that were lucky that had houses in Phoenix and Chatswood when we were around, and Samuel was right, we don't want to talk and brag about the delivery, but when many of us went to work, our vision was to help people and help all race groups. We know that there were imbalances of the past, but if you got the will to make things work and not steal, you will get what we call in Islamic terms the barakah. So we're not saying that, we're not sensitive to the imbalances of the past, but sometimes there's too much emphasis on that, and 30 years into democracy is getting out of hand. And 5% of these so-called tenderpreneurs are benefiting. And the majority of people that are disadvantaged in the squatter areas, in the informal settlements, need to realize they must put their vote in a place where their conditions can improve, not with the governments that are competing.
For sure.
So our appeal to the civic organizations is to go out and reach to these people and get them to vote for the right party, not to vote because MK is a black party or EFF is a black party or ANC is a black party or DA is a white party. At the end of the day, whoever got the capabilities of delivering must be able to deliver. So that's a challenge we have going forward. We're going to discuss. But Ernest, you got 2 minutes to conclude. We need to wrap up.
All right. I'm glad you touched on that, because too often do we racialize politics and which political parties actually appear to are supported by who. And the reality is that for the homeless people on the ground, and I mean, I engage with them quite frequently, they want tangible results. Their request is simple. Their vision is, we need stability. We need a place to stay. We need, obviously, a job of some sort or a stipend of some sort, something like that, which takes the blokes off of the street. Right. The problem is, back in the day, and I say the problem is because back in the day, call it, I think, to the early 2000s, correct me, Sam, we had, in the South Beach there, we had what we called the Ark, where it had its own clinic and it was subsidized and it had 2,000 people it could take. Right. And there was no foresight to say, well, if we take this down, what do we put in its place? Instead, there was a decision to say, let's make that the V&A waterfront. Instead of saying, okay, putting all that money in there, instead of replacing our infrastructure and the rest of it, because the foresight was lacking. And I mean, the reality of it is you had people back then that were saying, all right, now, how can we get our people into child money? And that's the problem. People have the mindset where it's now our time to eat. And I say to people, regardless of whatever race you are, everyone should have the idea that we all are impacted by greed. We are all impacted by corruption, and that should stop. But the reality is you can't stop people from eating if you are not willing to hold them accountable. Now, that leads me to the next question. All right. Many people have said to me, and I'm glad you've touched on it, that we won't support the DA because of its stance on Zionism and the rest of it. I simply my response to people is say, listen, that is a national ambit. That is for the guys in parliament to actually deal with, because they deal with foreign affairs and international affairs. At a local level, we don't deal with that. Yes, we take, and many members have come to me and said, I would support you, but it's just this point that we cannot agree on. And I said to them, please, remember in your voting to separate your votes accordingly. When you are voting for in a municipal election, you are voting for your municipality. Yes, they have engagements with foreign governments in terms of in trying to get tourists in and the like, and trying to get foreign investment to some degree. international affairs is limited to that background. When it's for the national vote, that's when you're voting for your opinion on Palestine and the rest of it. And that's the stream that comes in. So when voters go to the polls, they need to remember that fundamental distinction. Because if you don't, you're also coming to me and saying, I'm not voting for you, but I know you do the job. And then we're going to put
Ernest, thanks a lot. I think we've run out of time.
Thanks, I said, for stealing my time.
We need to conclude now. The ANC always uses that ticket against the DA.
Yes.
I know when I did elections, it's going to continue because obviously they're looking at ways and means of getting the support of people, and that's going to be the game plan. And we won't be able to stop that. But obviously, Ernest, being a representative from the DA, your counterparts at national are going to have to look at their stance on Palestine and the atrocities that are taking place there.
Sure.
And we need to really understand the rest of the world is turning against the Zionists and advising them that what you're doing, it's inhumanity to human beings. And we need to take a position because in the end of the day, Almighty is watching. And, you know, if you're a believer, you have to believe that sometime you will be able to pay for all these wrongs that you are doing. But we'll discuss that on another day. I think we had quite a nice show. We couldn't complete the discussion for today. MK's fight against the dual police setup. We'll do that. We'll defer that to next week. But I want to thank our guests this evening for making it an enlightening show. And we're getting there. We're narrowing down the path to what's going to create success in local government going forward. We got a year away, and we're going to discuss these issues and try to educate our ratepayer associations, our civic organizations. We're going to sharp focus on what's the real situation out there. I want to thank Hassan for joining us. Hassan is always providing some valuable financial information, at least giving hope to our investors out there. We're going to talk about tourism. We're going to talk about the boom that we expect in December. I did meet with some of the general managers of the hotel industry, and they're quite optimistic. The GNU, we know there are a lot of positives coming, but there are also a lot of issues of concern. And I'm sure generally service delivery, we have to get the civics to hold municipalities accountable. And I want to thank our listeners for joining us and listening to the late hours this evening. I hope that some of the information shared this evening benefited all our listeners. But if there's any topic that you want us to discuss, please feel free to email me or send us a WhatsApp message at our studio or at our offices. So we will research and bring in guests to chat about those issues. On that note, my closing advice is that let's have hope. Almighty is in control. And at the end of the day, we must understand that if you have hope, you have faith, you pray, you make du'as, you read your 5 times salah, you obey the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as shown to us by Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. In that way, we make du'as that, the country flourishes because we are living in this country. And alhamdulillah, we have to make shukr for a lot of positives that comes out of the country, because if you compare yourself with other countries, there are also a lot of challenges in other countries. And as citizens of South Africa, we have to make it work and look for the best solution for the challenges in our country. So we will start, dissecting these issues, analyzing them going forward in future programs. That brings us to the closure of this evening's News in Focus. I want to thank our technician, Monley, for doing a superb job here. And also for our listeners listening in and our guests that join us this evening. Until next Wednesday, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.